Well. The dynasty reigns supreme. The Kansas City Chiefs are in their fourth Super Bowl in the last 5 years and looking for their third Super Bowl title in that span by virtue of a 17-10 defensive battle against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Happened to be the first AFC Championship game that the Ravens have ever hosted. More on Baltimore later because there are a lot of layers and aspects as to why they lost and parts of it that just were in some cases mind-boggling, and in other cases was like, okay, that actually makes sense when you add the context to it. For Kansas City, this is the weakest they've ever been, certainly the offensive side of the ball in the Mahomes era. I don't think that's even arguable. This is Mahomes' worst year statistically, which I'll take 27 touchdowns, 14 picks as my down year. The 14 picks ain't great, but I'd say half of those, not exactly, but about half of those probably came off Kadarius Toney drops. But the point is, the offense didn't look explosive. Kelce didn't look healthy after that Vikings game. You had the drops by Toney, the drops by Valdez-Scantling, who ended up making the catch to send them to the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter. You had some inconsistencies, some injuries on the offensive line. Pacheco was dealing with some injuries here and there, and it just looks like the Kansas City Chiefs were pretty vulnerable. And I mean, they were. I mean, it's the first time they've had to go on the road in the Mahomes era. Yes, they hosted Miami, and while you had the fringes thinking that Miami Dolphins, who can't play in under 70-degree weather, could actually go on the road, play the fourth coldest game ever, go to Kansas City and win. That was obviously ridiculous. And that's my favorite bet of the year, if I were a bet man, as the segment goes on Fridays. Kansas City took care of business. But here come the Buffalo Bills, 6-game winning streak, and Josh Allen might just be on Patrick Mahomes' level. And Mahomes, for the third time in the playoffs, beat Josh Allen and outplayed Josh Allen, particularly in the fourth quarter. You also you talk about yesterday, the best team in football, I still maintain coming in. The MVP of the league, Lamar Jackson, having the best season of his career, the best weapons of his career, adding Odell Beckham Jr., who was nowhere to be found, Zay Flowers, who was a lot of places to be found, just in the wrong areas. Best defense of football, John Harbaugh, didn't blink. Looked like a team that's been there a million times. And this is why I talked about all season long. This is why I never, at the lowest points of the Kansas City Chiefs season, never sold stock on them as my pick to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. Why? Well, let's see. It's the best defense in the Mahomes era. Top 3 defense in all of football, along with Baltimore and San Francisco, in my mind. And by the way, they just happen to have this guy, Andy Reid. Maybe you've heard of him. He's been to multiple conference championship games without Patrick Mahomes. Been to a Super Bowl. Had success with McNabb and Alex Smith. Now he gets the best quarterback ever. Not greatest, big difference. And you see he's back in another Super Bowl and 6 straight conference title games to add to it as a bonus, or how they got there, obviously. They also happen to have undoubtedly the greatest tight end of all time in Travis Kelce, who just passed Jerry Rice yesterday. You know, I heard he was a good player. I wasn't around for Jerry Rice. I was born in 03. Never saw Jerry Rice, but I've read the record books. He was all right. Well, Kelce just passed him in all-time playoff catches. And they have this guy, maybe you've heard of him, who's a win away 2 Sundays from now from passing Peyton Manning and becoming the 3rd greatest quarterback in the history of the game of football. I'll detail that argument more next week as we lead up to the Super Bowl, but Mahomes is going to pass Peyton with a title. He just is. I'll detail that more next week. But as far as the Mahomes-Kelce connection, let's talk about that briefly. Because Kelce was washed. Taylor Swift is this big distraction. Oh my God, the Swifties are just going to be too much for Travis. Really, let's look at their playoff numbers, all Mahomes and Kelce. Seem like they've been doing this together for a long time. Ooh. Oh, wow, that's unbelievable. Mahomes throwing to Kelce this postseason. He's 23 of 27. That's, by the way, doing the math quickly, 85.2 completion percentage. That'll work. That's well above league average. 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 144 when Mahomes is throwing to Kelce. Doesn't that remind you of a lot of those Brady Patriot teams with limited receiving cores? Same can be said about Kansas City. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, upcoming receiver Rashee Rice, who we like, but still not quite there yet. Not developed. He's a kid. He's a rookie. He'll get better. Sky Moore, Justin Watson, kind of like Brady in New England. Amendola, I remember one Super Bowl, it was Malcolm Mitchell, but you had Brady, you had Gronk. Yes, they had Julian Edelman, who was great in the playoffs, but it was, by and large, it was number 12 and it was number 87 in New England. And in Kansas City, it's number 15 and number 87. As for Mahomes, he now is putting together a resume that doesn't even make sense. So, another big reason I believed in the Chiefs, obviously, they have the best head coach and best quarterback and best tight end in the league. My guess is they were probably going to figure out the whole offense thing, is that Patrick Mahomes, through 6 years as a starter, he's amazing in the regular season. And he somehow gets better in the playoffs. We could show you the numbers right here. Regular season to postseason. Regular season, he goes from winning 77.1% of his games to winning 80. We'll say it this way. He wins about 77% of his games the regular season. Playoffs wins about 82%. And you see right there, 14 wins. That's tied for third all time with Mr. Peyton Manning and others. He goes from 316 yards per game. That dips a little to 309 yards per game. But by the way, that's first all time in the playoffs. Win percentage is first all time. Yards per game is first all time in the postseason. His touchdown to interception ratio, I'm not going to bore you with the numbers. It's about 3.5 to 1, which is really good. He ups it to 39 to 7, which is better than 5 to 1. He goes from a 103 passer rating, which is excellent, to a 106 passer rating, which is even better. And then he goes from a 66% completion percentage, 66.5 to 67.5. And again, all of those numbers, look at the playoffs down there. 14 playoff wins, that's tied for third all time. Every single number, win percentage, yards per game, touchdown to interception ratio, passer rating, and completion percentage, first all time in the history of the National Football League. Like, listen, he's not Brady. I've heard some people today call him the greatest quarterback. He's not there yet. It's going to be a long, long way to catch Brady. But it isn't possible at this pace, with that coach, with that tight end, with now this defense, who outside of Chris Jones, they're not paying anything. Like, in that department, we got to give a ton of credit to Brett Veach. Everybody, myself included, ripped the Chiefs for trading maybe the best receiver in football, Tyreek Hill. And he turns into a defense that is shutting some of the best offenses of football down. This is what Kansas City's done all season defensively. And offensively, can we finally acknowledge, folks, dynasties flip a switch in the playoffs. Golden State did all those years when they have down regular seasons relative to the talent they had. I said that as a Warriors fan. The Patriots, remember that 1 year, 2018? Like, this Chiefs team reminds me a lot of that 2018 Patriots team, although not as old as that team was, where they kind of sputtered at the end of the regular season. That Patriots team was not good on the road, under 500. But you got Brady, you got Bill, who's been there before, you got Gronk, you got an amazing defense, and you got opportunistic receivers with your great quarterback, and you're just going to make a few more plays and a few less mistakes than the opposition, and somehow going to find a way to win these games. Because that's what smart organizations do. That's what smart quarterbacks, coaches, and skill position groups and defenses do. That's Kansas City. It's a different version of them, but I said that back in week 15 rather, when they played the New England Patriots. And I don't know, it's probably because they were playing the Patriots. It was like, I was watching that game, I was like, bingo. It's like eureka. This Kansas City team is like those Brady teams. Awesome quarterback, great coach who specializes on one side of the ball, great defense, great tight end, not quite his true self, although he can't tell in these playoffs. Kelce's been amazing. And just better situationally. Been there, done that. Moment's not too big for them. That's Kansas City. They're almost reflecting the New England Patriots back in the day. Shout out to the Chiefs. And I know everybody today is just heartbroken and devastated and beside themselves. Oh my gosh. The NFL rewrote the script so Taylor Swift could be in the Super Bowl. They rigged it so Taylor Swift could be in the Super Bowl. That's funny. There's a quarterback who's thankfully, I think, getting better health-wise, that said that there was a weird conspiracy with the logo of the Super Bowl and how they wanted a purple team, presumably from the AFC, and a red team, a reddish team, scarlet-ish from the NFC, and it would kind of make the colors look good because that's how it's been in past Super Bowls. It's weird. That conspiracy just poof, just disappeared, went away. Bye. I don't know. Found it odd. You know, the NFL didn't do a terribly good job writing that script. If that was the case, maybe we could learn a thing or two from the WWE people. I don't know. Just found that odd. This is what dynasties do. You can get tired of it. That's fine. But I like watching dominance. I like watching teams make history. And I like watching the best quarterback we've ever seen in our lifetimes. He's not the greatest. There's a big difference. But that guy in Kansas City can do things we simply have not seen others do. And was he amazing yesterday? He wasn't amazing, but he was amazing when he had to be. Some of those plays, getting in and out of sacks, some of those the throw to Kelce on that first drive for the touchdown, I don't think there's a quarterback in the league that can make that throw. Not Allen, not Lamar, not Burrow, none of them. Insane. I've always maintained, then I'll move on to Baltimore. I've always maintained that obviously Mahomes the best quarterback. We all generally agree. But then Burrow, not saying he's close to Mahomes, but Burrow's sort of in a similar tier where doesn't really matter what you put around him, he could take you over the top. And I love Burrow. I still think Burrow's the second best quarterback in the league. But man, I've said it's Mahomes' league and we're all just living in it. Tier 1 of quarterbacks, it's tier 1 Patrick Mahomes, and then you go to tier 2. It's this level of dominance is unlike anything we've ever seen through the first 6 years of the guy's career. I'm not saying he's going to pass Brady. I'm saying there's a realistic shot he could. And with the win on Sunday, my book, he passes my man, Peyton Manning, as the the third greatest quarterback in the history of the sport. Shout out to Mahomes, shout out to Reed, shout out to Kelce, shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs, and yes, to the Swifties. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.